Hello, and welcome to Top 4 here at Balance Patch in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have a good one for you tonight, folks. In the red corner, it is Sohaib Mufti, and in the blue corner on our side of the screen is Zachary Lee.
And we've seen those of you who have been watching since round one, those faithful fans, will recognize Zachary Weed's gouging fire team. And that Metagross as well, that it had a kind of a mirror-ish match against Aaron Trailer with some couple differences, but this time it's going up against Sohaib's team that has a couple Pokemon that we have yet to see today.
Yeah. So Sohaib has a Fluttermane, a Hisuian Arcanine, a throwback to last regulation, but it's starting to make waves again when people started realizing that Rock is, as an offensive typing, just incredible. The Tornadus Incarnate form for some speed control, Raging Bolt, Urshifu Rapid Strike with the Choice Scarf, and an Amoonguss. So a bit of a Fire, Water, Grass core, some Tailwind, a bit of an Electric type there. And Zachary's team, I mean, as we saw in round one, just a really, really strong team. And if you're going to look at your layout here, we're going to see, actually, it's Sohaib versus Sohaib. Hopefully we can get that fixed at some point. I mean, Sohaib's a good-looking dude, but, I mean, I'd like to see both of our players. But for now, let's focus on both of our players' leads, as we are going to see a Tornadus and Urshifu Rapid Strike coming out from Sohaib versus Metagross and Ogerpon.
Yeah, you know, if you take away the Metagross, I feel like I'm back in Regulation E. Tornadus and Urshifu is the lead, staring down an Ogerpon, but now Metagross is here to shake things up, and it'll be interesting to see how Zach uses it. It's in kind of a funny spot against the Urshifu, where it hits it strong with a Psychic Fangs, but Urshifu can, of course, Terrastalize to get out of that weakness. Urshifu is vulnerable to Horn Leech, but that's also not quite going to KO it. So you're kind of having some... Zach is threatening fairly middling damage output against Sohaib's lead here. With that one exception to that would be a Heavy Slam into the Tornadus. We see an Aqua Jet into the Ogerpon. What was he cooking?
Not much. Burned his mac and cheese somehow. I mean, Bleak Windstorm coming out here, going to do a good amount against Ogerpon. Metagross not taking a lot thanks to its Sulfest, as Ogerpon gets a speed drop. Heavy Slam into the Urshifu, not going to do a heck of a lot of damage. I'm a little bit confused by the plays here, not seeing a Psychic Fangs, maybe expecting, I don't know what to switch in. And an Aqua Jet into that Ogerpon, expecting I don't know what to switch in.
And now it looks like this Urshifu is committed to the Aqua Jet. Bleak Windstorm, if this misses Ogerpon, and it does, that is a huge miss because it would have taken it out. Instead, it looks like both of Zach's Pokemon are going to pick up a couple of KOs here, and it's going to be 4v2.
All right, and now we can see Zachary's forehead at the very least. But Metagross going for the Psychic Fang into the Urshifu is going to pick up that KO after the Heavy Slam, which is a wonderful thing to see if you are Zachary. Sohaib losing two Pokemon without doing a lot. I don't know if the day's fatigue has gotten to him or if he's just making plays beyond our comprehension. As we're going to see Fluttermane come out and Arcanine. Fluttermane obviously having to stare down a Metagross that can Bullet Punch it. And Ogerpon, after that speed drop, probably going to be slower than this Arcanine, luckily for Sohaib. I don't believe he got off Tailwind as he missed a Bleak Windstorm. I'm just revisiting in my mind what happened this match. I really want to know what was with... my guess, if I had a wager, would be Aqua Jet was a misclick, and he could not afford to switch out from that position, given that we see the two back Pokemon here. There was just no safe switch at that point. Maybe he also didn't want to click U-turn and go, because this lead looks like it could shut down a lot of Sohaib's team. So U-turn maybe being a pivot move that would have threatened him a lot more. So my assumption would be Sohaib might leave some of these Pokemon at home, because a Choice Scarf, Rapid Strike Urshifu into an Ogerpon, if you don't have any U-turn to go on isn't the greatest thing. Raging Bolt could be a good pick, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, and it looks like now that the Arcanine is one of the last 2 Pokemon on the field, it absolutely has to click Rock Slide. Its choice locked into it. Fluttermane burning 1 Protect to try to avoid the Bullet Punch. Now it probably drops to a combination of Bullet Punch plus any 1 attack from the Chien-Pao. It'll be interesting to see if Sohaib tries to go for the double Protect and escape this pin that Zachary seems to have him in. Arcanine's Rock Slides, you can't forget about it for too long. Arcanine is it's no joke offensively, especially with this choice band. As you were saying, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are starting to realize is that choice band Rock Slides, like Incineroar can't do that. That's outputting a lot of damage from a really solid attacking type. And if Zach doesn't respect the damage that Rock Slide is doing, he may just find himself in a dangerous situation as the double Protect works wonders for this Fluttermane.
But as we know, Rock Slide isn't always going to give you what you want, and it needs to hit this Metagross here. If Sohaib wants a shot, we do see it go into the Protect, but is it going to hit the Metagross? It is, luckily for Sohaib. So he is clawing his way back into this one, knowing that his only out there is getting that double Protect on Fluttermane, and very luckily for him, getting it, also landing that Rock Slide. And now we have a 2v2 situation. This game is going at a lightning pace, and Raging Bolt isn't even in the game.
And now we have an interesting setup here where we're going to see some speed interactions that are really going to determine the rest of this game. We see that Zach's Fluttermane is the fastest thing on the field, outpacing even his own Chien-Pao, which makes me think that at the very least, the Fluttermane is a timid nature. And this Ice Spinner is going to go into Arcanine. Assuming that's a two-hit KO, and it is, I think this is curtains because Arcanine is locked into Rock Slide, and even though it took Chien-Pao down to its Sash, it can't switch moves and click Extreme Speed right now. It's going to have to take this Ice Spinner and go down.
Yeah, and that Fluttermane is definitely feeling comfortably numb right now as it goes down to the pain of a choice band Rock Slide, and Sohaib, seeing that he has no way out from there, being choice band locked in, an Ice Spinner being a 2-hit KO, that Terra Fairy maybe not doing the greatest thing for him in that battle.
Yeah, the Terra Fairy, it would have been nice if he could have saved that to kind of make the Chien-Pao second guess itself. Maybe you click a Sacred Sword into a Terra Fairy, or maybe Zach tries to make a read and clicks Ice Spinner, and Arcanine remains a Fire type. But that's all kind of, hindsight is 20/20. You could say, oh, I should have Terra'd this then, that kind of, that's one of the elements that Terra introduces into the game. The decision to hold on to your Terra and when to use it, really key to how each player masters the generation's new mechanic.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, had we seen Sohaib conserve his Terra for that Fluttermane, probably wouldn't have gone down to that choice spec Shadow Ball there, and would have had an even better shot at winning that game. But that game was fast. I see that Gouging Fire, I think, oh boy, this is going to go for a while. But Zach identifying he has a pretty offensive team over there. I need to make sure I can get out my offense as soon as possible. I don't have time to go for Howl. I can't Breaking Swipe. Sohaib, again, Urshifu not doing a blessed thing that battle. So maybe taking the bench, maybe clicking a better move this time. We'll see how Sohaib wants to adjust to this. The fact that he made it back, there was a double Protect involved, so there was a bit of luck. But he played to his outs, and that's the mark of a good trainer.
Absolutely. And I think what you said about Gouging Fire not really being a little bit awkward into this matchup is absolutely correct. As in terms of reducing damage output, the only thing that Breaking Swipe really affects is the Arcanine. And even that can Terra Fairy, because Breaking Swipe and Urshifu, it's not going to do a lot. Given that Surging Strikes always crits. So now we have the same leads as Game 1, and something tells me that Sohaib will not be clicking Aqua Jet right now.
Yeah, I think revisiting last game, I realized what Zachary was going for with the Heavy Slam into the Urshifu, expecting it to U-turn and then want to go into perhaps that Arcanine, saying, okay, Heavy Slam's going to do more damage. Sohaib's going to go out with the U-turn here, and if this Bleak Windstorm connects in this game, going to be a one-shot on this, or a two-shot on this Ogerpon, and going to put Sohaib in a much, much better position for the rest of this match. I don't remember how the speeds interacted if Ogerpon was faster, but we'll find out now.
Yeah, and it looks like if the same things as last game transpired, I see that the Fluttermane's on the field now. If that takes a heavy slam, it's not going to be doing too much. Ogerpon does outspeed the Tornadus. It's going to hit it with an Ivy Cudgel, do about half its health. Bleakwind Storm comes out and will double connect, so that's all for the Ogerpon, which probably means some really good things for what could very possibly be an Arcanine in the back for Sohaib. Let's see what this Metagross does end up going for. It's going to be a Psychic Fangs, it's going to be into Fluttermane, and it's going to take it down to some very low health, well within range of a Bullet Punch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bullet Punch imminent here. Ice Spinner imminent here. I expect Sohaib to lose 2 Pokemon this turn, or possibly protect his Fluttermane, although I think it would be smart to get 2 free switch-ins. And with Ogerpon down, Urshifu's in a really good spot just to click, I assume, Terra Water Surging Strikes and just clean house in this game.
Yeah, Ogerpon is really standing in the way of 2 of Sohaib's Pokemon. One, that Urshifu, as the Follow Me prevents it from, clicking Surging Strikes as freely as it would like to. And 2, the Arcanine, just because it threatens a easy KO with that Ivy Cudgel. But now that the Ogerpon's out of the field, and let's not be mistaken, Sohaib paid a hefty price to get rid of that Ogerpon. He took almost all of his HP on his Fluttermane and half health on the Tornadus, and put both Pokemon well within range of all the priority moves that Zach can throw out. Tornadus does get the Tailwind off, might be a last gasp effort, as I believe it's going to go down to a Psychic Fangs.
Ooh.
No, the target's into the Fluttermane, so quite the double protect from quite the protect from the Fluttermane, although in this case, it might almost be to Zach's advantage, as that means Sohaib will have 1 fewer turn of Tailwind to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting to note that Sohaib does have Rain Dance, which will boost up his Urshifu. That's a good thing. However, it's going to weaken that Arcanine's Flare Blitz if it wants to come in and click that, which is its most damaging, most accurate move, which would take out Metagross and would take out Fluttermane. So maybe opting not to click it here, maybe just wants to go for a Bleakwind Storm, try to break a Sash. But no, just going for the Rain Dance, saying, you know what, I think Urshifu's ready to go in this game.
And the Sucker Punch comes out towards the Tornadus and will fail. And the Bullet Punch into the Fluttermane, that's going to take it out. Now Tornadus is going to stay on the field. I can only imagine that Urshifu is going to come out here.
Oh,
and we'll see
is.
what Sohaib does to kind of make the most of his last 2 Tailwind turns. Zach still has yet to reveal the Pokemon that he has in the back, which could also have... Oh, it's going to be Fluttermane. So it's up to Sohaib to really use these turns of Tailwind wisely. He's got 2 of them, but fortunately for him, Zach cannot protect, as its Urshifu's ability is going to come into play.
Absolutely, and even without that Tailwind up, Urshifu is going to be the fastest thing on the field thanks to its Choice Scarf. Gonna lack a bit of damage, but I think that Rain Dance is gonna be enough to allow it to, 3-hit KO everything that's on the field right about now. So let's see if a very happy bear is ready to sweep through Zachary's entire team, as it has loved to do since its inception.
Yeah, this bear could not be any happier to be playing in the rain. There's hits the Metagross, there's good morning, here comes good afternoon, and I think it's going to be good night. The Fluttermane switched in, it will not have the opportunity to go for an attack, and that's quite the turn for Sohaib, as Urshifu is going to be taking 0 damage, and Tornadus can even get a little bit of chip with this Bleakwind Storm.
Absolutely. Bleakwind Storm coming out, doing above half to, or less than half to Fluttermane. Fluttermane above half of its HP. And right now, Sohaib, I mean, he could pivot Tornadus, get an Intimidate off, but right now it's looking like the only out for Zachary would be a Sucker Punch, plus if Fluttermane doesn't go down, dealing with that damage. But I think Sohaib's clear to just go into Fluttermane here. And if Sucker Punch, even if Sucker Punch crits, I don't think it's enough for a KO here.
No, and Tornadus very wisely went for a Protect there, allows it to survive into the next turn and re-establish Tailwind in a world where the Fluttermane does take out the Urshifu and Arcanine comes in and can now have the speed advantage. Only 2 hits required to take out the Chien-Pao, and this Urshifu is just clicking Surging Strikes and profiting. That's how you use the bear.
Surging in the rain, as they say in the old Singing in the Rain music. Not surging. But Shadow Ball going to come out here, not do a ton of damage. Tailwind petering out, but that means nothing to a bear with a choice scarf, as Zachary is going to forfeit the match here. And we're going to have to see how Game 3 plays out. It's going to be a tricky one for both players. I think we are likely going to see the same exact lead, and it all comes down to, does Metagross Heavy Slam the U-turn? Does the Urshifu U-turn? What does Ogerpon do? What does Tornadus do? Does Tornadus even come to the match? Does it need to come to the match with the Choice Scarf? What is going to happen here? I think both players are playing exactly how they need to. Sohaib obviously taking the right steps last game, and Zachary not calling them out like he did in Game 1. Sohaib kind of subverted his expectations and went with them. Dragonite not coming is definitely interesting because some priority would be good. However, that Extreme Speed not going to do a lot of damage to Arcanine and is completely immunized by Flutter Mane. So Sohaib taking a little more time than Zach to think about this one. If he wants to bring Tornadus, maybe he wants to bring a Moongus for some redirection of those Sucker Punches and Bullet Punches. Maybe wanting to bring Raging Bolt for some more bulky offense. Who knows? Only he knows. And he's going to take some time to think about it.
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, Zach was very quick in reestablishing the same for, I think he has his plan. He's going to stick with it. And we'll see if it's good enough to take Game 3. Again, I'm really interested to see how Turn 1 plays out here. Last game, it looked like Zach kind of went for a mid-ground in terms of taking directing the Ivy Cudgel towards the Tornadus, eating the U-turn with the Ogerpon, but then the Psychic Fangs didn't quite do enough damage to take out the Flutter Mane. I'd be interested to see if maybe that slot receives a double target in the form of, say, a Ivy Cudgel and a Psychic Fangs, but we won't find out. Instead, we have an Arcanine lead from Sohaib next to the Tornadus, and it's going to be staring down the exact same lead on Zach's side.
Yeah, so I think that Sohaib's kind of going for a gambit here, right? Not a King Gambit, saying, I'm about to throw out a choice-banded Arcanine Flare Blitz into your Metagross. And then my Flutter Mane will be free. I'm going to go for Tailwind. What are you going to do? Are you going to Terra your Metagross? Are you going to get your Metagross off the field and take way too much damage from something in the back? Are you going to force the Terra? And I think Sohaib knowing, okay, if I can clear something out, I'm pretty good. But we are going to see the Metagross Terra here, so I would expect it to survive. Ogerpon, going to go for a Spiky Shield, so if the Arcanine targets that slot, going to take a little bit of damage on its head as Tailwind comes out from the Tornadus, and we are going to see
Head Smash into the Ogerpon.
Spiky Shield. So it is going to take a bit of damage, not as much as it would have taken if it landed Head Smash.
No, not at all.
But we see Heavy Slam go down into Arcanine. Does a hefty chunk of damage, I'd say, a lot more than I expected. I thought Arcanine was a bit heavier than that, covered in all those stones, but I guess not.
You think that's Bullet Punch range?
No. I think Bullet Punch will just barely hang on. So now it's a question of what wants to go down for Sohaib, because Metagross is going down, Ogerpon's going down, everything's going down. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you identified that perfectly when you talked about how good of an attacking type Rock is. And Zach, in trying to avoid this Choice Band Flare Blitz, decided to tear the Metagross, and now he's left with 0 Rock Resist. However, he's going to save that for another day. In comes Urshifu, and we will see Ogerpon switch out as well from Zach's side. So a lot of rearranging here on the second turn of Tailwind. But whatever happens, Metagross is going to get off of attack.
And Tornadus is probably going to want to get off of Bleak Wind Storm. Bullet Punch is going to do pitiful damage into that Urshifu. Bleak Wind Storm going to miss on one of its targets.
The Metagross.
Which I would say is the much less important target to miss with that Assault Vest, although it might have been put into Urshifu's Surging Strike's range. Chien-Pao having its sash broken is nice, but Urshifu is able to do that and some already. So I would expect to see this Tornadus go for a Rain Dance, and I think we saw last time that a rain-boosted Surging Strikes may not be enough to take out Metagross from full HP. I think last time it had taken about 43 damage, I think, where it was at like 140-ish. So we'll see what happens here. We are going to see the Terra Water coming out from this Urshifu, wanting to get up some damage. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tornadus does a little rain dance and brings down the tower.
But for as much damage as Surging Strikes does into Metagross, you know how much it does into Ogerpon? Absolutely nothing. And so even in taking one of these hits, Sucker Punch is going to go into Tornadus and fail, and Surging Strikes is going to claim a victim here. But now Zach is in a position where he can bring out his Ogerpon and redirect any Surging Strikes that the Urshifu wants to go for, take absolutely nothing from it, and the Chien-Pao needs to do what it can to prevent the Tornadus from attacking, because otherwise it's free Bleak Winds for everyone.
Absolutely. So Urshifu getting the KO, I was absolutely wrong with my recollection of last time.
It had Sword of Ruin this time, I think.
Oh my goodness, I always forget about those Sword of Ruin switch-ins. Thank you to my co-caster for keeping me in check. So Tornadus here at full HP isn't really going to care about a Sucker Punch, and Arcanine can always come in to mitigate that damage. So Ogerpon has already taken no damage, so it's going to survive anything that comes into it. I wouldn't be shocked to see a double into Tornadus, but if Tornadus just goes for Protect here, and we see the double go into that slot, that's a wasted turn with a potential switch-in. I think both players have to make some tough calls here in terms of where they keep their aggression and where they put their defense.
Yeah, I think that's a turn where there's really potential to swing the game. It looks like Sohaib is going to switch into the Arcanine, maybe predicting some defensive moves from Zach. Tornadus is going to go for Protect, so a very defensive play from Sohaib in a turn where it looked like he was posed to output a lot of damage. Sucker Punch goes into Tornadus, that fails. Ivy Cudgel is going to come out from the Ogerpon, that also fails. So in a turn where it looked like it was set up to break the game open, absolutely zero damage goes off, Tailwind wears off, but also Tornadus is in a position to set it right back up, and now Arcanine is in range of a Sucker Punch. We'll see if it can use Extreme Speed to get out of that one.
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting situation where Extreme Speed from Arcanine can come out, although it will likely hit a Follow Me from Ogerpon if it goes for it. Sucker Punch can come out, a Tailwind Rock Slide can come out. There are so many different scenarios that are going through these players' heads in terms of the outcome of this turn. And I think...
Extreme Speed into the Ogerpon. Yeah. Sucker Punch fails.
Going into the Tornadus opting for another Tailwind. So it's going to be able to Extreme Speed into this Chien-Pao next turn for a huge KO. Never mind.
Oh, the Ivy Cudgel is eaten well by the Tornadus. How often do you see when Tornadus clicks Tailwind, it's the third move that goes off in that turn?
Very rarely, if ever. But that's the power of priority. And right now we're seeing an Arcanine able to outspeed this Chien-Pao with its Extreme Speed over Sucker Punch. And we see a very, very threatening Bleak Windstorm that can come out from Tornadus. And Zach has already burned his Terra with that Metagross early on in the game, and it really didn't do all that much.
No, it didn't. And both players playing without the Terra. Extreme Speed is going to come out and knock out the Ogerpon. And now I think this Urshifu is in a position to do what it loves to do the most. Chien-Pao is going to Sacred Sword and take out the Arcanine, but I would say that the Hisuian puppy has more than done its job. It's Extreme Speeded, taken out the Ogerpon, and cleared the way for Surging Strikes to come out and just wreck things.
Absolutely. And I'm a little surprised that Sohaib didn't just go for an Extreme Speed into Chien-Pao there, followed by a Bleak Windstorm. I feel like that was a pretty guaranteed way to take the game home. Maybe I'm missing something, given that I'm talking so much and trying to analyze all the sides of things. So if I'm missing something, I apologize, but I really think that Extreme Speed plus Bleak Wind there was very safe. But, you know, Sohaib's still in a very safe spot to win this one.
Yeah, you know, Sohaib really, there are so many things that could go wrong when you're clicking Extreme Speed. Because one, both of Zach's Pokemon had a protecting move available to them. And two, there was a Flutter Mane in the back. And so there were so many situations where an Extreme Speed just wouldn't have done anything. And that's why his aggressive switch out to Urshifu was such a nice play. Because if Zach played defensively to try to, you know, maneuver around an Extreme Speed, Urshifu, as you can see here, was given a free switch onto the field, and that just allowed it to Surging Strikes, take out the Flutter Mane, and then Sohaib's Flutter Mane finishes off Zach's last Pokemon, and that is the game. Sohaib coming back from a 0-1 deficit to win 2-1, and that's probably the best comeback from the worst turn 1 game 1 that I've ever seen.